I woke up today to find people angry on Twitter. Well, I mean, that's always a solid indicator of it being a day ending in Y. Not at me, though. You see, someone had the audacity to write an article suggesting that there were things which are bad about video games. Not the precious video games! Said article landed on my timeline via indie dev veteran and all-around lovely chap Rami Ismail, who once gave me a lift to a party and definitely won't remember that. But I do. I appreciate it. Thanks, Rami. Anyway, said article was this one. He agreed with its premise, as did I. The premise is, well, everything I've been ranting about on this channel for the last... gestures wildly. Basically, that a lot of what video games are doing is kind of shitty, and you should be aware of this. Magic Moon money obfuscates what you're buying, so you can't keep track of it as well. They make games grindy and give you an option to pay to skip it. Daily login rewards keep you coming back like it's a Skinner box and you're a rat looking for another pellet of food. Social elements keep you playing because of your loyalty to your guild or whatever. Loot boxes, just fucking loot boxes. It's gambling, that's all it is. Anyway, you've probably heard me rant about this before, so we won't dig into it again. It's not new. What I'm interested in today is the reaction folks had to anyone shining a light on these practices. I'm fortunate enough to be basically nobody, so frankly no one really gives a shit if I say video games are bad actually. But these were journalists, and they said that video games were bad. And everyone knows journalists don't know anything about the stuff they write about, so we must defend the nice video games from the bad people who would besmirch them. What's the haps? I'm Moroka, and today I have a slightly spicy professional gaming opinion, which is that your video games are not sacred. There's a certain group of people, okay fine, it's the gamers, TM, who get quite upset if anyone dares say anything mean about the fun toys made by the giant multinational corporations, because they've wrapped up their whole identity in being a gamer TM, and any attack on video games is an attack on them personally. I mean, like, I get it. I'm hardly a paragon of a well socially adjusted human being. I'm an awkward, snarky British recluse. The world is shit and people keep trying to change things, and change is scary and video games are safe, and you don't have to deal with other people if you just play video games. I get it, okay? But you still look like a child when you act like this. You don't need to rush to the defense every time a valid criticism of the games industry is raised. Demonizing video games again by focusing on the most negative aspects. Look, nobody's demonizing video games. Do you remember in the 1980s when religious groups claimed D&D was promoting witchcraft and Satanism? That was demonizing. Do you remember when Jack Thompson spent a full decade railing against video game violence despite no real evidence linking it to real-world violence before getting his ass disbarred? That was demonizing. Pointing out that loot boxes are a way to sell gambling to children while avoiding gambling regulation. No, that's the truth, buddy. The industry are leaving loot boxes behind after EA copped backlash for Battlefront 2. Oh, well, okay then. I'm sure after all that backlash there's probably no globally massively popular gacha games around anymore. You know, selling slot machine pulls to 12-year-olds. A lot of people want value for money when purchasing a game, so yes, fetch quests can pad the content out. I mean, value for money is very subjective, but holy shit, the example cited by the article was collecting 100 bloody feathers in Assassin's Creed 2. Sure buddy, that's where your money was going when you shelled out for AC2, all the feathers. They must have really bumped up the development cost putting so many in, I mean wow. I guess I just have higher standards than most, wanting my full-price AAA titles to not be insultingly tedious busy work masquerading as content. Am I picking apart one comment a bit too much here? Maybe. Maybe it's just that we're focusing on all the negative stuff in the industry, and the media needs to balance it out with good stuff. Maybe, whenever anyone writes an article explaining the harmful elements of game design, we should include a paragraph or two just to remind people that games are fun too. So don't be too down on all the psychological manipulation. Sad not to see an equal conversation about craft and artistry of creating worlds. Yep, that's definitely the solution. Newton's third law of journalism. For every article there must be an equal and opposite... re-article? Although, that's actually just the same point again, but dialed up to 11. And yet I will gladly accept that it would be nice to have some well-researched and sourced journalistic work on good things and how great they are. But sadly that's not how the media works. The news is still a business at the end of the day, and bad news sells. People as a general rule don't really care about good news. It's not a games thing, it's not even to a great extent a journalism thing. It's oh crap, this video wasn't supposed to be another one about capitalism. Yeah, it's a capitalism thing. Not that state-run media has a much better track record, but I'm not here to fix the news, I'm here to fix games. Pretty sure this is what the boomers' parents were saying about their children when the Beatles were a new band. Yeah, I heard that after you've listened to A Hard Day's Night, the difficulty really ramps up so they can sell you the power-ups you need to get through Can't Buy Me Love. But if you do get lucky with your polls, the 5-star Yellow Submarine definitely makes it a lot easier. Or are we talking about the idea that rock music is corrupting the youth?
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
Because frankly, that's not what the article was about in the slightest. Nobody suggested anything of the sort. Which is how I know you didn't read it. Next! Gaming is a hobby that society is trying its hardest to get rid of, because they understand it about as much as they understand Dungeons and Dragons or quantum mechanics. There we go. Mwah. Society is trying to cancel video games. That's it. That's the fear that seems to be lurking behind so much of this. It just took the more crazed fringes of Twitter to say the quiet part loud. The wildest part is that this joker actually agreed individually with a lot of the issues being addressed here. That big publishers are greedy, microtransactions are exploitative and prey on the vulnerable. And they still came away with the conclusion that the whole point of the piece was to cancel video games. And when your whole personality is the one who plays video games, they must be trying to cancel you by extension. The games industry is bigger than any other form of entertainment on the planet. Everybody games. Everybody. And there are games for everybody. It's not going anywhere, don't worry. They're not going to take away your toys. Nobody has that power. But the game industry is also not some divine institution which shall not be slighted. It's entirely fair and valid to criticise the bad parts. Somewhere, deep down, it seems like that in theory we agree on that. And to go back to the issue of balance, we do celebrate video games. Basically constantly. Just not necessarily at exactly the same time as we criticise the bad stuff. I'll tell you that Hades is the best game of 2020 made by a well-paid team that's never overworked and has no anti-consumer design mechanics. And I'll tell you that loot boxes are exploitative bullshit. I'll tell you that Paradise Killer is a phenomenal must-play, one of the most creatively interesting titles of recent times. And I'll tell you that battle passes have a lot of sinister stuff going on too. But they're separate videos. I feel like this isn't rocket surgery. So why would anyone ever expect an article detailing exploitative psychological manipulation techniques to have a bit about how great games are? That's not the point of the article. It's not even ABC with an axe to grind against games, because it takes less than 30 seconds to do a search on their site and find plenty of stories with a positive angle on things. Look at this church group bonding over Sushi Go, or this talented artist taking inspiration from her time working for a developer. So yes, the only conclusion I can draw is that reactions like these are the visceral knee-jerk of people who have made video games so central, so integral to their whole identity, that when the news says, hey, some of these big companies are preying off people for profit, maybe that's a thing people should know about, the only available reaction is to interpret it as a personal attack. Now, I'm no psychologist, but I don't reckon that's a very healthy way to live your life. I'm in no way saying don't play video games, don't celebrate them. No, love them, embrace them, they can be wonderful things. But by God, do something else as well. Read, cook, draw, learn an instrument, dance, go outside. Whatever does it for you. Video games will still be there when you get back, and they'll still be good. But you'll be a more well-rounded individual, and your new experiences might give you a new perspective on the games you play. It's got to be better than shouting at journalists on Twitter. Thank you so much to my channel members, Weirta, Tulkas and Silent Evan for supporting my dunking on the Gamers TM. If you'd like to see your name in the credits with them, consider becoming a channel member by hitting the join button below. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if I quoted you here today, feel free to leave a dislike instead. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.